My name is Sloan Whitaker. I'm 29. And tonight my house sounds like a stranger is breathing through its walls. 4 years ago, I bought this place after a tech startup I'd bled for went public. It isn't a mansion. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a backyard that used to be dirt and dandelions, until I learned the difference between a shovel and a coping mechanism. I picked every detail in the master: the rainfall shower, the matte black fixtures, the closet I convinced myself would make me a minimalist. It didn't. I'd just finished wiping down the kitchen counters when my phone lit up with Mom. Her wonderful opportunity voice is bright and slow, like she's granting wishes. Sloanie, sweetheart, I was thinking, what if we bring the family together for a bit? Red flag number 1. Moms together rarely means together. It means me giving something up. It's about Ivy, she continued, swelling with tender pride. Ivy, my 24-year-old sister, beautiful, effusive, allergic to budgets, had married Trevor last month, a whirlwind ceremony strung with fairy lights and unpaid invoices. They're struggling to find a place, Mom said. The market is brutal, so 6 months with you, just to build a foundation. I have a guest room, I said, already running numbers. Below market rent, utilities split, house rules in writing. Mom sighed the sigh of martyrs. I love your generosity, but I was actually thinking, the master. Newlyweds need privacy, space. Your guest room shares a bath with your office, and you're single, so it's not like, Mom, I said, and my voice had an edge I usually sand off. I pay the mortgage. I renovated that suite. I'm not surrendering my bedroom in my own house. Family sacrifices, Sloan. Marriage deserves respect. As the older sister, set the example. You can be in the guest room for a little while. She paused. We helped with your tuition. They covered 1 semester. I covered the rest with loans and caffeinated stubbornness. I'll offer the guest room at a discount, I said. That's where this ends. She hung up without a goodbye. By dinner, my phone was a Greek chorus. Dad was disappointed in my tone. Aunt Luann texted a paragraph about family values. Grandma June sent a single sentence. It wouldn't kill you to be generous, dear. Generous to whom? The person making mortgage payments, or the people who liked my master bath? Caleb Ortiz, my boyfriend, called while I was rinsing out the French press. Breathe, he said softly when I answered. Say what you can do. Don't defend what you won't. I did. They want the master. I tried to keep it light, but it came out brittle. Then it's a no. I'll come by tomorrow and help you change. Passwords, at least. He chuckled. Kidding. Half kidding. A notification flashed from Jenna Park, Caleb's ex. Congrats on the big presentation today. You always land on your feet. I told myself the quickening in my chest was irritation at the timing, not fear that I was about to prove I couldn't hold boundaries at home or in love. Saturday morning, my doorbell rang. I'd explicitly said, do not come. There stood Mom, Ivy, and Trevor. Ivy flowed in like a real estate agent on a sugar high, fingers grazing paint, eyes cataloging upgrades. Oh, this kitchen could use warmth, she said, as if she were doing me a favor. In the hallway, she peered into the guest room. Cozy. Translation. Not the master. Then we reached my bedroom. Ivy's breath caught. She disappeared into the closet like she'd found Narnia. Trevor, look at this rainfall shower. We could finally sleep through the night. And the closet. Sloan, you're a saint. I'm a homeowner, I said. Mom clasped her hands. It's perfect for newlyweds. Privacy. A sanctuary. She looked around like she'd written the mortgage check herself. So when can they move in? Next weekend? I offered the guest room, I repeated. For $800 a month, 6 months max, utilities and groceries split, no permanent changes. We'll put it in writing. Trevor pulled me aside. His voice was low, friendly, calculated. Look, I get it. It's a big ask, but Ivy's stressed. Her parents are old school. This would help, for just a bit. We'll be looking the whole time. I should have said no again. Instead, I heard the phantom applause of a family that only claps when you perform generosity. I made a compromise I would later name mistake. Fine, I said, and felt something small inside me flinch. But guest room, rules, written. Everyone nodded. We signed a basic rental agreement my friend at work, paralegal, not paramagical, helped me draft. I slept that night thinking adulthood was simply paperwork that kept you safe. They moved in on Sunday. On Monday, a purple paint chip smiled up at me from the kitchen table. Just an accent wall, Ivy said brightly. when I found her in my master with a roller and a playlist called Nest Mode. Your bachelor vibe is a little cold. No offense. Offense taken, I said calmly. No permanent changes was in the agreement. Paint isn't permanent, she sang, purple bleeding onto my carefully primed wall. On Tuesday, gold-framed mirrors appeared. My duvet was exiled to the garage, for now. Trevor draped heavy curtains that smothered daylight. The bed moved, then the nightstands, then my patience. When I reminded them of the rules, Ivy's eyes filled instantly, weaponized waterworks. You're making me feel unwelcome in my own home, she whispered. In my home, I corrected and called Mom. Oh, Sloan, Mom said, exhausted by my boundaries. It's just paint. Let them nest. You can change it back when they leave. Remember young love. I remembered staying up all night to hit deployment deadlines while my boss called it passion because he didn't have to do it. I remembered that love without boundaries is just appetite. That afternoon, Caleb showed up with takeout and a look that said he'd hold the line with me. He ran a hand along the purple wall. This color is a felony in 3 states. I laughed, and it felt like oxygen. Tell that to my mother. We'll document everything, he said. Stay factual. The contract matters. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, just a flash of Jenna, and set it face down. I'm here. On Thursday, I came home early with a headache. The garage door juttered open like a nervous eye. Voices drifted down the hall. Ivy's bright, a man's professional. I followed the sound into my bedroom and stopped. A contractor with a laser measure wrote on a clipboard. Ivy stood beside him in a robe like a queen planning a beheading. And we'll remove the closet door, maybe install a barn door, she was saying. Open up the flow. Stop! My voice filled the room like a siren. The contractor froze, tape measure mid-recoil. Who are you, and why are you in my bedroom? Ivy's chin tipped up, prepared tears already glassing her eyes. Sloan, please don't make a scene. This is about family. The master needs to feel like our space. It isn't your space. I stepped between them, my headache spiking into heat. You signed an agreement. No structural changes, no contractors, no permanent... Mom said you were fine with it, Ivy said, dialing faster than thought. You're overreacting. The contractor half lifted his hands like a witness. Do I leave? Yes, I said, now. He slid past me, murmuring apologies. My phone vibrated. Mom, then Dad, then Aunt Luann. The chorus had a new song. Sabotaging happiness, hostile to family, control freak. I stared at the purple wall and had the sudden, cold certainty that paint wasn't the only thing set without my consent. In the doorway, Caleb's text arrived. Want me to come over? Don't let them move the line. I'm 5 minutes out. Outside, the stranger's truck door slammed. Inside, Ivy began to cry. I'm just trying to make a home, she said, voice trembling with practiced ache. For us. I looked at the laser dot still winking red on my closet door, imagining it cutting through wood, through contracts, through the thin membrane between compromise and surrender. I could feel the house listening, floors holding their breath, walls watching the old pattern play. Then start, I said, by respecting mine. Her tears stopped. She blinked like she'd misheard. This isn't a negotiation, I added. It's my bedroom, my house, and this was your final free pass. In my pocket, Mom's call pulsed like a migraine. I let it ring. In my chest, something heavy, years of being the reasonable one, shifted its weight. The line was drawn. The question was whether I could hold it when the next wave hit. From the driveway, Caleb's engine idled, steady, low, a promise that I wasn't doing this alone. I exhaled, long and deliberate. My house exhaled with me. The next morning, I woke to the sound of a drill, chewing through drywall. An animal trapped inside the house, gnawing to get out. I followed the noise into the master. Trevor had one knee on my neatly patched baseboard, screwing a brass hook into the wall as if the lease were a suggestion and gravity were optional. Ivy stood a foot away with a measuring tape around her neck like a medal. 3 shopping bags spilled velvet and tassels onto the bed I used to sleep in. I said no permanent changes, I reminded him. This is just a hook, Trevor said, cheerful, like a flight attendant giving crash instructions. For the new canopy. She'll sleep better with heavy textiles. It regulates temperature. It keeps out daylight and prevents witnesses, I said. Take it out. Ivy stepped between us, palms lifted in peace. Sloan, we thought this through. The purple was cold yesterday because the light was wrong. She tugged a velvet panel from the bag, midnight dark, heavy as a decision. These will make it moody, not depressing. Trevor, hold this. He did. The room swallowed, the world narrowed. For a beat, I could feel it. The seduction of a room that belonged to someone else now. The house reshaped to tell a new story where I was a guest star. Take it out, I repeated. Trevor shrugged and unscrewed the hook. Sure, we can patch the hole. You won't make the hole. I left before my voice found a pitch I couldn't bring back down. In the hallway, a framed print leaned against the wall, face turned to the baseboard like a child in timeout. I set it upright. A 24 by 36 canvas stared back at me. Ivy and Trevor's first dance, blown up and lacquered, glitter caught in the varnish like fossilized applause. It was meant to sit above my TV. There was a sticky note on the corner. Center here, R&P, coming Thursday to help hang, XO. R&P. Richard and Patricia, Ivy's parents, the ones who hovered at their ceremony like donors at a gala. Of course they were coming. Why just invade when you can colonize? By noon, Ivy's wedding china had annexed my kitchen cabinets. My everyday dishes moved to the highest shelf where I needed a step stool to reach them. Ivy shooed me gently away from the dishwasher while she rearranged plates I'd owned for years. You'll thank me. Now everything is by category. Ceramics with ceramics, glass with glass. Your system was chaotic. My system was mine, I said, reaching for a coffee mug. Not that one, she said, with the scandalized gasp of a kindergarten teacher. That's display only. The living room fared worse. My books no longer followed author or discipline. They formed a color gradient. Navy flowed to teal, flowed to seafoam. A novel about grief lounged between a cookbook and a manual on container gardening because the covers coordinated. My gaming setup had migrated to the garage. A scented candle smoked on the coffee table, labeled coastal linen, but unmistakably baby shower. At 6, Caleb texted, I'm outside, want backup? Please, I replied. He walked in with his shoulders loose and his eyes taking in everything, like a patient assessing a room before he sits. In the kitchen, he lifted one of the china teacups with exaggerated gentleness. This thing cost more than my first car. It chipped, I said, tapping a fingernail against the rim. They'll sue the air. We ate takeout at the counter because Ivy's table runner was styling. I told him about the hook, the velvet, the canvas, the size of a confession. We reinforced the contract, he said, calm. We stopped negotiating with feelings. Feelings are a fog machine. They make the lasers look good. He smiled. It unclenched something in me. Then his phone lit up on the counter where he'd set it face down. The name flashed and stuck. Jenna. He flipped it over, silence as deliberate as a promise. She's asking about a code repo from 2 jobs ago, he said. I'll answer in the morning. It's fine, I said, lying to both of us. Thursday arrived with the casserole and 2 false smiles. Richard and Patricia swept in like a coordinated set. Navy blazer, pearl studs, cologne that thought it was a personality. Patricia floated to the kitchen, opening cabinets and making approving noises at the china she'd given Ivy. Richard toured the house with a slow, proprietary gaze, pausing in doorways like a man choosing where to hang his portrait. You've got good bones here, he said in the living room, standing beneath the canvas of Ivy's dance, which Trevor had hung in the hour before their arrival because some rituals require altars. With the right improvements, you could add 6 figures of value. Lucky for you, they have taste. He gestured to Ivy, whose taste was currently melting a candle onto my oak. We're making a home, Patricia said, sliding a baking dish into my oven. Isn't that what family is for? To help each other build? Building on someone else's land is called construction, I said, or invasion. Patricia's smile thinned. Oh, Sloane, don't be petty. Dinner was a morality play with side dishes. Richard explained capitalization rates for the neighborhood as if I hadn't bought the house with my own money. Patricia asked about my love life in the tone of a surgeon evaluating a suspicious mole. Ivy performed the role of glowing wife. Trevor added the baseline of reasonable man. My mother texted proud of you for hosting as if I hadn't been conscripted. After they left, I opened the fridge to find my groceries lighter than memory. Ivy closed the door with her hip and handed me a list. Oh, we're out of oat milk and sparkling water, and Trevor hates your olive oil, so... Your rent doesn't include groceries, I said. She blinked like I'd spoken in code. But family shares. Family pays rent and buys groceries, I said. 2 truths can sit at the same table. She tilted her head, then smiled like someone who's learned a new trick and filed it under ignore later. Speaking of tables, she said, we need to talk about the office. No, we don't. I'm pregnant, she said, stepping forward as if dropping a royal decree onto my doormat. The word took a second to find its shape. A glitter of awareness ran through me, equal parts tenderness and alarm. How far? 6 weeks, she said, luminous. We were going to surprise you Sunday, but with the nausea. Trevor slid an arm around her waist. We didn't plan it, he said, as if accidents exempted obligations. You understand. I did. I understood weaponized timing. I understood how a word like baby turns a contract into a napkin. The office is perfect for a nursery, Ivy continued, already on Pinterest in her mind. It's right next to the master. We'll be quiet. We'll keep our things organized. She laughed. You'll hardly notice. I looked down the hall at the door with the little brass plaque that said office, because I'd once thought labels would protect me. The hallway seemed to hesitate. The house knows when it's being edited. Our agreement is 6 months max, I said. A baby extends nothing. The office stays my office. Her face crumpled like paper. You're going to throw out a pregnant woman? I'm going to enforce a lease, I said, soft but steady. You can stay through the term we signed, and then you'll find your own place. I will help you look. I will not donate my life to your Pinterest board. She pressed a hand to her mouth. Tears launched on cue. I can't believe you. Mom! Call her, I said. Tell her I said no. She did. Within an hour, my mother's car was in the driveway. The living room became a tribunal. Marla paced and cried and invoked sanctity so many times the words started to sound like a brand of air freshener. Dad called, solemn and distant, disappointed. Grandma June texted a cucumber emoji, which I'm still interpreting. Be cool, stay crisp. It didn't matter. The chorus wanted to make me the villain. The script had a title, Selfish Older Sister, and they were committed to the role. Caleb stopped by after his shift. He stood near me, not in front of me. That mattered. When Mom finally left, exhausted by my refusal to be converted, he and I sat on the front steps, the night a low hum around us. I hate that you're in this, he said. I put me here, I said. I made the compromise. We'll get you out. He squeezed my hand and then, like he couldn't help himself, added softly, Jenna asked if you're okay. It hit me sideways, not because of who asked, but because there was someone else in our orbit collecting our weather. You can tell her I am, I said, and you can ask her not to. He nodded. Done. We went back inside. The house had held its breath all evening. It hadn't forgiven me yet, but it hadn't given up either. 2 days later, I came home early. My parking spot was taken by a car I didn't recognize. Through the front window, I could see Ivy in the living room, animated, gesturing at walls like a showrunner pitching a pilot. A woman stood beside her in a crisp blazer, tablet in hand. A steel nameplate hung from her tote. Kendra L., Realtor. I walked in. Ivy turned, all sunshine and spin. Great timing. We're just exploring options. Kendra thinks with a few changes. Kendra smiled, professional, shark sweet. Hi, Sloan. I'm touring to get a sense of market potential once renovations are complete. Incredible bones here. Get out of my house, I said. The smile flickered. We have an appointment. No, you don't, I said. You have a fantasy. This is my home. There will be no sale. There will be no showing. There will be no you. Kendra gathered her tablet slowly, the way a person backs away from a dog guarding its bowl. Understood, she said, and meant noted for later. As the door closed behind her, Ivy's face hardened into something I recognized only in mirrors. Resolve. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I'm making it true, I said. That's always harder. She lifted her chin. Then we'll do it the hard way. A breeze moved through the house as if a window had been cracked. The purple wall darkened like a bruise. Somewhere in the kitchen, the refrigerator motor kicked on, a steady, grinding sound that meant work was happening, whether anyone paid attention or not. I pulled out my phone and opened a new note. Title, Documentation. Okay, I said to no one and everyone. Hard way it is. It took 3 weeks for the hard way to become warfare. At first, it was small skirmishes, dishes stacked wrong, thermostat battles, passive-aggressive post-its about quiet hours. I told myself it was temporary, that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw eviction notices. I should have remembered. People who live in my house play by my rules. Then, one Tuesday night, I came home from work and my key didn't fit. At first, I thought I was losing it. I tried again. Twist, jiggle, nothing. The deadbolt had been changed. Through the window, I saw lights on. Shadows moved inside. My house, my rules, My lock, gone. I rang the bell. Once, twice. The door cracked open. Ivy appeared, a blanket around her shoulders like a fragile queen. "Sloan, don't overreact," she said before I'd spoken. "It's for everyone's safety. You still have the back door key." My voice was ice. "You changed the locks on my house?" "You still live here," she said. "We just didn't feel safe with you having access to our bedroom while we were asleep. You know, for the baby." For the baby. The magic phrase that excused everything. Trevor appeared behind her, trying for calm authority. "Let's all take a breath. It's temporary." "You're trespassing," I said. "And now you've added unauthorized modification to your list of violations." "Sloan," Ivy said softly, hand on her stomach, "you wouldn't evict a pregnant woman." I walked away, not because I'd given up, but because I needed a witness. That night, I called Catherine Chen, a real estate and tenant attorney a friend at work had recommended. I told her everything, from the purple walls to the changed locks. She listened quietly, then said, "You've already got a signed rental agreement. That's leverage. What you need now is documentation. Hard evidence. Dates, photos, texts, everything. Don't confront. Collect." So I did. I started with photos. The paint, the curtains, the damage to the trim. Then texts. Ivy's messages about making it feel like home. Then I installed security cameras in the common areas, fully legal since I was a resident. Every recording, every timestamp, went into a folder labeled Case File, Whitaker Residence. By the end of the week, I had 42 videos, 61 screenshots, and 23 notes in my documentation log. The footage revealed what I'd suspected. They were treating my house like a rental property of their own. The third bedroom, my old office, now hosted a cousin of Ivy's who paid them $600 a month in cash. Ivy, my correction kept slipping, had started an online craft business using my address for shipping. And worst of all, I discovered a storage unit rented under my name. The billing statement showed up in my mailbox, complete with my signature, forged from an old credit application I'd left in a file cabinet. They were stealing my identity while living under my roof. I sent every document to Catherine. She called back within the hour, voice sharp with disbelief and opportunity. "They've committed fraud, Sloan. This is more than eviction level. This is criminal." Her tone wasn't pitying. It was strategic. "Don't move too fast," she said. "People like this dig their own graves. Keep letting them talk." 2 nights later, Richard and Patricia came for dinner again, uninvited. I sat at the counter, silent, watching Patricia rearrange my spice rack while Richard lectured Trevor on home equity leverage. They spoke as if the house were already theirs. Richard set down his wine glass. "You know, Sloan, if you were smart, you'd sell while the market's high. With Ivy pregnant, it's time to think about family legacy." "You mean your legacy," I said. "This house is mine." "Emotionally, sure," he replied, smug. "But practically, it's wasted on a single woman. You'll move eventually. It's inevitable." Caleb had come by halfway through the meal. He'd heard enough. "You do realize this woman owns the property you're standing in," he said, tone light but eyes cold. "It's not a negotiation. It's a favor she's regretting." Richard chuckled, condescending. "You're the boyfriend, right? Don't get involved in family matters." "I'm involved the moment you call her property a family matter," Caleb said. "And just so you know, changing the locks was illegal." The room froze. Trevor looked at Richard. Ivy looked at me, and I smiled. Yes, it was. The next morning, I got an email, not from Catherine, but from the city housing inspector's office. Subject line, complaint notice, potential absentee landlord. Neglect, property ID number 544322. Someone had filed a report against me. The claim alleged that I was absent from the property, that my tenants were living in unsafe conditions, and that the homeowner refused to make structural repairs. I didn't have to guess who filed it. Catherine's laugh was short and cutting when I forwarded it. "They're playing checkers on a chessboard. Don't worry, this helps us. The inspector will come, and when he does, we let him see everything." The inspection happened 2 days later. A polite man in a reflective vest and clipboard introduced himself as Mr. Douglas. I walked him through each room. He noted everything: the unapproved paint, the missing closet door frame, the exposed nails, the piles of baby furniture blocking exits. When he opened the master bedroom door, Ivy froze mid-sentence, a brush in her hand, painting a new accent wall. He raised an eyebrow. "This is a permitted remodel?" It's an emotional remodel, I said. Unauthorized. He didn't smile. He wrote faster. Then came the kicker. When he tested the purple paint with a quick sample kit, the indicator paper turned bright pink, meaning lead levels above modern safety standards. Mr. Douglas frowned. This is unsafe, especially for expectant mothers. Ivy blinked, confused. Wait, unsafe? I've been sleeping here. Her face drained of color. Trevor, that paint was supposed to be low VOC. Lead isn't VOC, Mr. Douglas said flatly. You'll need remediation. I'm flagging this for a safety notice. The irony hit like thunder. The paint she used to mark territory had become toxic. But the universe wasn't done yet. As the inspector took photos, Ivy nervously overshared. It's been hard getting things done without being legally married yet, you know? My head snapped up. Wait, what? The inspector glanced at me, pen pausing. You're not married? Not yet, Ivy said quickly. We did the ceremony, but the paperwork's still processing. We wanted to time it with Trevor's tax filings. Silence. The word ceremony hung in the air like a lie that had finally stopped breathing. That evening, I called Mom. Did you know they weren't legally married? I asked. Her voice broke. What are you talking about? They've been using sanctity of marriage as a weapon, and it's not even real. The wedding wasn't filed. She went quiet. For once, my mother, the woman who could sermonize guilt into marble, had nothing to say. I heard her inhale sharply. I need to call them. I almost felt sorry for Ivy. Almost. Within hours, the family text thread lit up like a forest fire. Aunt Luann. Wait, what do you mean not legally married? Grandma June. I always said it felt rushed. Dad. We've been defending them for months. Mom. No one speak to me right now. Cousin Aaron. Sloan was right all along. The group chat's title, Family Love Circle, changed to No Drama Please. Then, within minutes, deleted entirely. By nightfall, the lines had shifted. The family pressure that had suffocated me for months evaporated. My mother stopped returning Ivy's calls. Patricia and Richard went silent. When Catherine called the next morning, she was practically gleeful. They lied to the city inspector, committed fraud, violated their lease, and exposed themselves to lead contamination, she said. Congratulations, Sloan. You've won. Now we make it official. She drafted the eviction notice that same day, a masterpiece of legal precision. Every clause Ivy had broken was highlighted: unauthorized renovations, illegal subletting, identity theft, fraud. The closing paragraph was my favorite. Tenants' continued occupancy poses financial, legal, and health risks to the property owner. Immediate vacancy within 72 hours is required to avoid escalation. I printed it, signed it, and slid it under their door before sunrise. By afternoon, I could hear Ivy's voice through the wall, high, panicked, desperate. She can't do this, Trevor. My parents. Call my parents. Trevor's reply was barely audible. She has every right. I stepped into the hallway, heart steady for the first time in months. 72 hours, I said. Then I changed the locks. Legally this time. Ivy turned, her mascara already streaking. You've destroyed this family. I met her gaze, calm and final. No, I said. I've protected what's left of it. Behind her, the purple wall glared back at me. Cracked, patchy, and poisonous. I almost thanked it for telling the truth. By Friday morning, the countdown had begun. I didn't have to lift a finger. By noon, the house was a hive of panic. Ivy's voice carried through the vents, alternating between sobs and fury. Trevor's tone was lower, weary, like a man realizing too late that he'd followed someone off a cliff. Outside, Richard and Patricia's car screeched into my driveway. They stormed through the front door without knocking, a family tradition I'd promised myself would die that week. Richard slapped a folded letter on the kitchen island. We're willing to negotiate, he said. No need for lawyers. I leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. There's no negotiation. You have 60 hours left. Patricia jumped in, her pearls trembling with outrage. You can't just throw out a pregnant woman. What kind of person does that? The kind who owns the property, I said. Richard exhaled through his nose, the sound of a man used to getting his way. You're blowing up your family over paperwork. We can fix this. We'll pay you for the damages within reason, if you let them stay. I slid the eviction notice back toward him with one finger. Read the last paragraph. He looked down at Catherine's final line. Immediate vacancy within 72 hours is required to avoid escalation. The word escalation landed exactly where I wanted it to. Patricia's voice rose. You'll regret this, Sloan. One day, when you're alone and need someone, I'll call my lawyer, I said. She picks up faster than family. That shut them up. That night, I met Caleb at a diner near the office. My appetite was gone, but his calm grounded me. You sure you're ready for what comes next? He asked. They won't leave quietly. I know, I said, stirring cold coffee, but I'm not afraid anymore. He smiled, that soft, patient smile that always made me feel seen. You shouldn't be. You did everything right. Then his phone buzzed. I saw the name flash, Jenna Park. He sighed and silenced it without reading. She's been asking if we're okay. I raised an eyebrow. And you said? That we are, because we are. I let the silence stretch, then I nodded. Good. He reached across the table, covered my hand with his. Let's finish this nightmare, then go somewhere quiet. Somewhere that's actually ours. It was the first time in months I believed the word ours could mean peace instead of possession. The next morning, a white city car pulled up in front of the house. Mr. Douglas, the inspector, stepped out again with another clipboard and a new expression, grim satisfaction. I've completed the full report, he told me. The property's been cleared for you, Ms. Whitaker, but your tenants, well, they're in trouble. I followed him inside. The house smelled like bleach and desperation. Ivy sat on the couch, phone pressed to her ear, mascara streaked into half moons. Trevor hovered near the boxes, pretending to organize. Douglas handed me a copy of the inspection summary. 3 pages of violations, unpermitted renovations, unauthorized business use, illegal sublet, lead contamination. Then he dropped the final blow. They also filed a false complaint about you. That's considered perjury under the Municipal Housing Act. Ivy's phone slipped from her hand. Wait, what? She whispered. Whoever filed the complaint will receive notice, he said. And fines. Possibly charges. Trevor's head dropped into his hands. Dad did, he muttered. Douglas nodded. Then it'll reach him. Richard's empire of confidence finally had a crack big enough for daylight to shine through. When the inspector left, the house felt hollow. The first breath of freedom trying to slip in. But Ivy wasn't finished. She turned to me, eyes wet but voice steel. You think you've won, but you've destroyed everything. Mom won't forgive you. Trevor's parents won't forgive you. You've made us homeless. I didn't make you homeless, I said quietly. You did that yourself. Her laugh was bitter. You're jealous. Of what? I asked. A fake marriage, unpaid rent, and a storage unit in my name? She froze. You found that? I found everything. Trevor looked up sharply. What storage unit? Her silence was answer enough. The next 48 hours unfolded like slow theater. Ivy's parents came and went, hauling boxes into their SUV. Patricia wept theatrically in the driveway, insisting I was kicking out a baby. Richard tried to corner Caleb, muttering threats about family reputation. Caleb just smiled politely and said, Sloan doesn't scare easy anymore. By Sunday evening, they were almost gone. I watched from the porch, barefoot, mug of tea warming my hands. The air smelled like rain and paint thinner. When Ivy passed me carrying the last box, she stopped. You'll be sorry, she said softly. Family remembers. So does documentation, I replied. She glared, then stumbled down the steps, muttering something about karma. Maybe she was right. Maybe karma had purple walls and a landlord's patience. After they left, I stepped inside. The quiet was disorienting. The master bedroom looked like a crime scene of bad taste. Paint peeling, holes in the wall where gold mirrors once hung, scratches gouged into the floor. But it was empty, mine again. For a long time, I just stood there, hand on the doorframe, breathing. Then I called Catherine. They're gone, I said. Good, she said, typing in the background. The city confirmed violations. They'll fine Richard for the false report. Ivy and Trevor signed the release, right? Yes. Then you're clear. We'll file for damages tomorrow. You can reclaim your home officially. Her voice softened. You did it, Sloan. Did I? I said quietly, because it feels like something died. It did, she said. The version of you that thought family meant surrender. Mom showed up the next evening. No warning. But for once, I didn't flinch. She stood on the porch, hands twisted around each other like she was holding guilt she didn't know how to drop. I heard everything, she said, about the fake marriage, about the storage unit, about you hiring a lawyer. I waited. She swallowed hard. I owe you an apology. That sentence hit harder than any fight we'd ever had. I was so focused on being the peacemaker that I made peace with lies, she said. I thought I was protecting family. I was protecting my own denial. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Rain started tapping softly on the porch roof. Then she reached out and touched my arm. I'm proud of you, even if it took me too long to say it. I nodded, unable to trust my voice. That night, Caleb and I ate takeout on the bare floor of the master bedroom. The walls were ugly, the air smelled of primer, but it was the most peaceful dinner I'd had in months. He handed me a paint color brochure. "I vote soft gray," he said. "Something calm, or maybe white, so you can start over." I smirked. "As long as it's not purple." He grinned. "Deal." We ate quietly for a while, listening to the rain. Then he reached for my hand. "After this," he said, "let's go somewhere, even just a weekend. No family, no drama, just us." For once, just us didn't sound fragile. It sounded earned. Later, as I stood in the doorway of the reclaimed room, I caught sight of a faint handprint in the dried purple paint. Ivy's, maybe from the day she'd declared this space hers. I touched it once, then painted over it, layer by layer, erasing what didn't belong. By midnight, the wall was blank again. A clean slate, a quiet house, a woman who finally meant it when she said, no. 3 months later, the house didn't sound like a battlefield anymore. It breathed again, the way it did when I first moved in, before the shouting, before the guilt. I could hear the rain tapping the skylight, the refrigerator's low hum, the quiet rhythm of mine. I'd repainted every wall myself, soft dove gray. The purple was gone, sealed beneath 3 coats of primer and forgiveness I didn't owe anyone. The master bedroom looked almost the same as before, except calmer. I replaced the broken closet door with a sliding oak panel. The walk-in closet was mine again, filled with clean lines and empty shelves waiting for future peace, not invasion. Down the hall, my office had been restored. Desk back in place, laptop centered, spreadsheets open like nothing had ever happened. But everything had changed. The lawsuit never went to court. Catherine negotiated a settlement, $12,000 for damages, paid by Richard on the spot to avoid public humiliation and legal exposure. He signed the check with a hand that trembled. "Consider this an education fee," Catherine said as she handed me the envelope. "You paid for your boundaries in blood. Now they pay in dollars." I laughed, but quietly. It felt strange to win. Mom kept her word. For the first time in my adult life, she stopped trying to fix everyone else's chaos. She started therapy, something she swore she'd never need. And when she came over last week, she didn't criticize the color of my walls or the absence of family photos. She just said, "It feels peaceful here." We sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee in silence. It was the kind of silence that healed, not punished. "I saw Ivy last weekend," she said softly. "They're legally married now. Small ceremony, just courthouse papers." I nodded. "Good for them." She hesitated. "They named the baby Jaden." I smiled, but the feeling was distant. "That's a nice name." Mom looked at me, really looked, the way she hadn't in years. "You don't have to go see them. You don't owe them that." For the first time, she understood. Ivy and Trevor never reached out. Through the family grapevine, I heard they'd moved into a small apartment across town. Ivy still tells people the eviction was a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. Patricia still blames me for Ivy's stress-related complications during pregnancy, though everyone conveniently forgets the lead paint. But I don't check their social media anymore. That chapter is closed. Caleb stayed. He helped me repaint, helped me rebuild. More importantly, he respected the space, something no one else in my family ever truly did. When I caught myself flinching every time someone knocked on my door, he said, "You don't have to open it until you're ready." One night, sitting on the floor eating pad thai out of takeout boxes, I asked him, "Why didn't you walk away? This was a mess." He smiled. "Because you were fighting for yourself, not against them, and that's worth sticking around for." We've been planning a small trip, a weekend away, somewhere with quiet mornings and no shared walls. For the first time, future doesn't sound like pressure. It sounds like breathing. Family fallout was complicated. Half of them think I'm cold. The other half think I'm brave. My cousin Erin calls me the boundary queen. My Aunt Luann still starts every text with, "I don't want to stir anything up, but," which is her way of stirring things up. I've learned to let it roll off. You can't control how people rewrite your story once you stop performing the version they prefer. Last weekend, I hosted my first dinner since the chaos. Just 6 people, coworkers, Caleb and my neighbor Elise, who brought lemon cake. No tension, no pity, no guilt trips. Halfway through the evening, Elise looked around and said, "Your house feels like it finally exhaled." It had. After everyone left, I walked into the master bedroom, turned off the lights, and stood in the doorway. The moonlight stretched across the floor, silver and soft. For months, that room had been a symbol of invasion. of everything I'd lost. Now it was something else entirely. It was a reminder, ownership isn't selfish, it's sacred. I sat down at my desk and opened my journal, the one Catherine told me to keep for evidence. The last entry in that folder read, Day 92, quiet, no trespassers, no noise, no purple. I flipped to a clean page and started a new section titled, What Stays? I wrote, my peace, my house, my right to say no, my capacity to forgive without inviting anyone back in. Then, under What Goes, I wrote, the guilt, the obligation, the idea that love must mean access. As I closed the journal, I realized the house wasn't just repaired. I was. The woman who once agreed to share her master bedroom out of guilt was gone. The woman who knows her worth had taken her place. From the window, the neighborhood lights glowed faintly against the rain-soaked street. Somewhere out there, Ivy was probably scrolling through Pinterest again, curating another dream home. Maybe she'd learned something, maybe not. Either way, it didn't matter, because for the first time in months, when I turned out the light and lay back in my own bed, there was no noise, no knocking, no fear, just silence.